Today on Detroit Muscle, it's the start of a brand new project. The guys go on the hunt for their next big build and do some detective work to uncover the ideal candidate. Also, we'll go for a spin in one of the most famous Mopars of all time. Detroit Muscle starts right now.
In recent months, we've combed the countryside looking for Detroit treasures, exploring boneyards and barns. We played detective by decoding cars to reveal their factory origins.
We've shared tips on how to look for project candidates. And mostly, we've just got a kick out of seeing what we could uncover.
But this time, we mean business. In fact, we're on a serious hunt for our next project vehicle.
Yeah, we've got word from a friend of a friend of a friend that's got several of those project cars, so we thought we'd come check him out. We came prepared. We got some cash in a trailer and hoping we'd go home with something.
Mark Tucker's automotive shop's in Lincoln County, Tennessee. Now, from the highway, you'd never know what lies behind it. A bevy of old beauties Mark has amassed over years of wheeling and dealing.
Well, I've been collecting probably around 17, 18 years.
Are any of these for sale?
Very, very few, mostly none of them.
Mark turned us loose in this maze of vintage metal, where it's fun to look, even though we're pursuing something special. Gotta watch your step here. There's patches of gnarly, prickly thistle everywhere.
Tom, did you know that the thistle is actually the national symbol of Scotland? In fact, according to a Scottish legend, some warriors were saved one night when their invaders, barefoot of course, stepped on thistle and, oh well.
Look at this. 57 Dodges were a symbol of what Chrysler once called the forward look. Kinda looks like it's moving, even though it's been parked here for years.
In the Spanish language, caliente means hot. This four-door sedan is, well, lukewarm at best.
Chevelle two-door wagons are pretty rare, and I bet Mark would even throw in the dice if we were game for another grocery getter.
Now, Mark has a special affinity for old trucks, and these rides are the ones he's least likely to let go of.
This 71 Plymouth Duster would make somebody a nice project car. Probably not us, but it's worth a look. Joe, is it rusty on that side?
I don't know. Well, Plymouth Satellite. This was in pretty good shape too. You know, this is considered an entry-level Mopar to a lot of people, and some people take these and try to turn them into something they're not, which is not very cool to us. If we get a Mopar, we're going top shelf. Something like this, 1970 Challenger RT, one of the most desirable, sought-after muscle cars in the world. Of course, some people would refer to this one as a basket case.
At first glance, it can be really intimidating, but the beauty behind buying a car in this style condition, well, some of the work of disassembly is already done, and you get to see exactly what the condition of the body is in. It's kind of like this shifter hole here. Now, I can tell you it looks like somebody's cut it out with a torch and a pair of vice grips, but it's no big deal, it can be repaired. But you would never see this with a shifter boot and the carpet laying in place.
Well, this old Challenger's missing an engine and trans, which is fine with us because we got plans we'll tell you about later. It's also missing a fender tag, which usually goes there, that tells you about all the options. Not to worry though, still got the VIN number, and that tells us a lot too. J's the letter designation for Challenger. This tells us it's the basic Challenger, not an RT, otherwise this would be an S. 2 and 3 tells us it's a two-door coupe. This next letter is for the engine type, a 318. 0 means 1970. B tells us it was assembled in Hamtramck, Michigan. And the last digits are sequential production numbers, which started at 100,001. Actually, this being originally a 318 car is pretty good news for us, because now there's nothing wrong with dropping in a big old bad, what's that iconic engine? Starts with an H, ends with an HEMI.
Now, this car being on a rotisserie is a huge help, especially with the inspection side of it. Now, looking at this car, it's got some rust in the trunk pan, which isn't no big deal. And I've heard from a few of those Mopar gurus, they almost think these cars were shipped from the factory with a little back here above the tank.
Well, a little rust like that's no big deal. A car like this, I'm kind of excited. What do you think?
Yeah, if the doors and fender is as nice as the car itself, we've got us a candidate. We'll just have to see if we can get it home today.
Let's go talk to him.
Getting the deal done was a lot easier than getting the Challenger out of the lot and onto our trailer. But at last, we're homeward bound with what promises to be our most exciting project ever.
Up ahead, the teardown begins, and we'll talk about what you want to save and how to make sure you get it back where it's supposed to go. Then this pristine white Challenger hides more than just a HEMI. Find out what makes it so special up ahead.
Well, we made it back to the shop in one piece with our newly acquired 70 Challenger. Of course, it's in several pieces, and happy to say that the fenders and doors, like the rest of the body we showed you, are in great condition considering, well, they're almost 45 years old. Case in point, no rust at the bottom of this door, especially in the corner where you often find it in cars this old. And looks like original paint, too.
Another common problem are fender bottoms. Ours are in really good shape. The fender itself, well, it has a few dings and pop knots in it, but nothing's really bashed in. So a quick trip to the blaster and several of these components will be almost ready for paint. But before we can make that trip, well, we got to get the rest of the car stripped down. We'll start with the easy stuff, all the pieces that aren't attached and the accessible bits like the hood hinges. Everything we're removing is going to be gently laid out and accounted for. Some of this won't be reused, but a lot of it will, and you don't want to accidentally destroy a piece that can't be bought, especially you resto guys.
The steering column gets detached from the box, then a couple of bolts mean it can be removed. The dash is a little more involved, with some pretty tricky bolts to deal with. But like everything else, it comes out too. Then the heater box is an easy pickup, as well as the pedal assembly.
Well, our deck lid here won't be making a trip to the blaster. The reason behind that is, well, it's a brand new part. So all we have to do is sand all this dust off, throw in a couple coats of primer, and then it'd probably be ready for a coat or two of paint. A little bit closer. This fuel cap is an iconic Mopar tidbit that we want to take really good care of. Oops, just a few screws is all it takes for removal. Good deal, saved it.
We are trying to label and organize most of the things we're going to reuse, like these headliner bows. The middle ones don't matter much, but the front and rear, due to the shape of the roof, got to go back the way they came. Some of these bolts are pretty stubborn and rusted, so we'll bust out a can of WD-40 rust penetrant to make removing them easier.
We'll use a jack to hold up the K-member, and 4 bolts is all it takes to drop it out of the car. Well, we got our control arms disconnected, the 4 bolts that hold the K-member out, and we went ahead and released all the pressure off the torsion bars. Now, oftentimes I've seen guys cut these out because they can be such a pickle to get out, but we're not going to do that today.
That's right. Theory is, if we push those torsion bars forward enough, the K-member and everything attached to it comes out. And to make that happen, my favorite tool, here you go.
Why are you handing it to me if it's your favorite tool? This side's out.
Now we can move on to the rear suspension. This leaf spring setup is a pretty familiar configuration for muscle cars. We'll unbolt the shackles on the back of them and knock them apart with a hammer. These super rad air shocks were a big deal back in 1983, but we don't think they'll be included in the rebuild. Then the front perch can be removed with 4 bolts, and the rear end is now detached from our Mopar.
Since we're about to head to the blaster, we'll put the body on a rotisserie to make moving it and blasting it a whole lot easier. We've made some special brackets to attach it to the car, and you'll probably have to do the same with pretty much any vehicle once you find a good attachment point.
Well, we got it on the rotisserie, so now we can roll it out and make a short trip to the blaster. You know, I'm gonna miss this Go Mango paint.
Still to go, you won't want to vanish. In fact, you should make it a point to stay and check out this vicious E-body. It's got more top-shelf 1970 goodies than you can shake a stick at. Then we'll talk about what we're going to do with our own Challenger. We've got some big plans.
Hey, did you guys know that a Dodge Challenger was the star of a movie called Vanishing Point in 1971? In fact, 5 identical white ones were used in production.
All 5 were crushed when production was over with, but thank goodness for classic car movie remakes.
About 25 years later, a Vanishing Point remake was in the works, and the producers called on Stevens Performance for help getting Challenger parts.
They just started sending the grocery list over and we started shipping parts.
The movie was finished in 1997. This time though, instead of the crusher, the 5 white Challengers used in the production went to the auction block.
We were the high bidder, so we had them shipped out here from LA, and it was kind of funny to see all of them on one delivery truck. They had them on a transporter. Well, it just seemed like the cool thing to do. People like movie and television cars, and we thought it'd make a good addition to our collection. 3
of Ted's Dodges went straight to museums for display, but this one first got a complete restoration. Even without star status, this 70 RT is a bona fide beauty.
Yeah, this one was the hero car, or the main camera car. It was wasn't as torn up as the rest of them were.
It sits on correct F60 15 polyglass tires with rally wheels. It came with some options like steering wheel with a rim blow horn pad, houndstooth and vinyl bucket seats, and behind that famous pistol grip, a special dress up for the pedals.
Ted recently took it off display temporarily to freshen up the 426 HEMI, and he realized a serious personal omission. In all these years, he had never driven this star car. That had to change.
Yeah, it's like driving a new car. It's not good for a car to sit.
The Challenger body style was the same throughout its production run. You can spot a 70 model by its deeply recessed grille set back behind the dual headlamps. Most RTs came with a power bulge hood, 2 air intakes, not directly connected to the air filter. This model even has a chrome flip-open race-style gas cap. The rear lights are in a full-width unit with a single reverse lamp in the middle.
Supposedly too nice to drive, but we're driving it anyway. It'll clean up.
After this bucket list road test, Ted will put it back on display at the Floyd Garrett Muscle Car Museum in Sevierville, Tennessee, to share it with its fans.
Today, though, it almost seems proud to prove it's a Challenger RT with enough horsepower to match its star power.
After the break, we'll reveal our plans for the Detroit Muscle Challenger. Will we go for an accurate resto, a driver, or an arm-to-the-teeth upgraded animal?
Hey guys, we're at Blast from the Past and you've seen us use them a number of times. We're dropping off our Dodge so that we can get it stripped down and ready for some color. But before we do all that, I'd like to talk about the media and its purpose. Now you all seen this fella, it's Vance. He's pretty much the head honcho here at the shop. I see you laid out a few of the medias. What do you got?
We've got some walnut shell, we've got some black beauty, and crushed glass.
Crushed glass.
These right here, the brown is the walnut shells. We use it on very light stuff like Corvettes, anything wood chairs, anything that needs something that's, you know, soft and delicate.
Now this stuff is cold slag, or what's referred to as black beauty, right?
Right, exactly.
So what do you guys use that for?
We use it on our rough material, such as thick metal and stuff that we just want to rip the rust and paint off of right quick.
Now these other two are crushed glass. One's a number 4 and one's a number 3. And what the number refers to is how finely they're ground. Well, I guess we better get out of your way and let you get back to business, and I can find something to do.
Yeah, we got to get that thing finished.
I'll see you in a couple days.
Later, Gator.
And a couple days later, ours is back from the blaster. We've got a good bit of metal work ahead of us, including a roof replacement, but we expected that. You know, it's a funny thing, but we've had talks about what we like about the 1970 Dodge Challenger even before we got one. And we also talked about how we could make a great thing even greater. We like the unmistakable shaker hood option, and we like the fact that they were built to go fast, with engine options like the 440 and 426 HEMI. We also like the idea of a manual 4-on-the-floor trans with a pistol grip shifter, and the fact they came in such bright, crazy colors.
How could we improve from the original? How about taking that old school HEMI and slapping on some fuel injection, and then taking that cool pistol grip shifter and adding a couple gears with a 6-speed? We also want to upgrade the brakes and suspension of this ride by making it drive and ride like a modern performance car. And either way you're doing a ride like this, it's always a good idea to keep a clear picture of this thing in your mind or on paper. So here it is, thanks to this awesome rendering done by our friend Dale Swanson at Swanson ArtWorks, who does a lot of our pre-built art. The color's what the factory called plum crazy purple in 1970. So we're proudly naming our project car Ultraviolet. He even gave us a personal slant on the classic RT stripes. So that's our game. Take the iconic parts of this car and ramp them up to the max.
But don't worry, we're keeping the classic looks and styling that make this car one of the most revered rides of the muscle car era. If you're thinking about upgrading the steering column in your muscle car, you might be glad to know American Powertrain is now the single source for countless turnkey systems, and anything that iDid-It makes, well, like this first-gen Camaro column with integrated electric power steering. They're made for quiet operation, they're speed sensitive, and a breeze to install. Usually it's a simple swap with only a few wires to deal with. They're great for working in tight spaces. They work with existing alternators with zero parasitic power loss. Like I said, the applications are many. The source is one, American Powertrain.
When you invest your hard-earned money into an air ratchet, you want to make sure that it's powerful, dependable, and user-friendly. This heavy-duty unit from Matco, it's got 130 foot-pounds of torque. It has a quick variable speed trigger with one-finger operation, and it's got bearings on both sides of the gearing to reduce friction. That's good for long life and smoother operation. Plus, it's got this ergonomic shift knob designed to make changing directions easier than ever. It's available online from Matco for around $400.
Everybody wants quality tools, but what about quality, comfortable work clothes? RedCap's new performance work pants and shorts are made of a tough yet soft, flexible material. They have hidden closures to cover the buttons and feature easy access specialty pockets. The pants feature a dual joint knee design for easy bending and flexing. They're available in 3 colors and exclusively from RedCap. Well, time to button up another edition of Detroit Muscle. We'll see you next time.